All right, so you've got the world of AI, right? It's dominated by these trillion-dollar giants. We all know their names. But what happens when a company you've literally never heard of just pops up overnight and sends a shockwave so big it vaporizes hundreds of billions of dollars in a single day? Yeah, that's the story we're getting into right now.
Okay, just look at this number for a second. $600 billion. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire economy of a lot of countries. It's one of those numbers that's so huge your brain kind of short-circuits trying to grasp it. But this isn't just some abstract figure. Oh no, this is the price of pure, unadulterated panic.
Yep, that's how much value was just gone from the stock of one single company, the AI titan NVIDIA, in just 24 hours. A total financial earthquake. And you know what the crazy part is? The trigger wasn't some huge market crash or a global disaster. Nope, it was a press release from a company that honestly almost nobody had even heard of.
So what was the cause? A small startup. That's it. A startup that just dropped a new AI model. Which of course raises probably the biggest question in tech right now. How on earth can one tiny new player cause that much chaos? All right, let's break it down.
Okay, so what was the big panic all about? Well, the market's logic here was pretty brutal and fast. See, for years, the rule in AI was simple. If you want better AI, you need bigger, more expensive chips, period. But this news, it kind of suggested that entire rulebook just got thrown out the window. If a tiny startup could get world-class results on a shoestring budget, did that mean the whole multi-billion-dollar hardware race was, well, kind of pointless? That one question sent a massive chill down the spine of the entire industry.
So, who is this challenger at the heart of this whole storm? The company's name is DeepSeek. And you gotta love it. In this story, they are absolutely the David, winding up a slingshot and aiming it right between the eyes of the tech Goliaths.
And the speed of their rise, it's just staggering. I mean, DeepSeek was only founded in 2023 out of Hangzhou, China. And almost right away, they dropped these models that are so powerful. Their app shoots to #1 in the US App Store. Yeah, you heard that right. It blew past ChatGPT. The demand was so insane that their servers completely crashed, and there were even rumors of cyber attacks. So this isn't just hype, you know? This is a full-on viral explosion.
And this right here, this lays out the battleground perfectly. You've got their multimodal model, Janus Pro, taking a direct shot at OpenAI's DALL-E 3 and GPT-4 vision. Then their language model goes right up against GPT-4 itself. But the real bombshell? It's their philosophy. See, while the big guys lock all their tech behind these expensive, closed-off walls, DeepSeek just threw the doors wide open. They made their models open source.
Which brings us to the billion-dollar question. Or I guess in their case, it's more like the several million-dollar question, right? How in the world did a small startup manage to match the performance of giants who are spending billions? What's their secret weapon?
Just look at the money here. It's wild. DeepSeek claimed that the final training run for their model cost them just $5.6 million. Now, to be fair, critics have pointed out that this number probably doesn't include all the R&D and data prep. But hey, let's be generous. Let's say the real cost was 10 times that. Even then, it's practically a rounding error compared to the billions, with a B, that OpenAI and Meta are pouring into their models.
So this really shows it was never about trying to outspend the competition. It was all about outsmarting them. Their strategy really boiled down to 3 key things. First, they used these really smart training methods, basically focusing all their computing power only on the stuff that mattered most. Second, they took full advantage of open source. They built on top of work that others had already done, including, believe it or not, Meta's own Llama model. And third, they figured out how to use less powerful chips really efficiently. And that move was genius, because not only did it save them a ton of money, it also let them neatly sidestep those US export controls.
And that open source decision, that is the real game changer here. Think about it. By just releasing their code to the public, they basically hired a global army of developers for free. You've got thousands of people all over the world who can now test their work, improve it, build on top of it, and that could speed up development at a pace that no closed-off corporate lab could ever hope to match. So, I mean, it's an incredible story, right? A small team, a tiny budget, and results that literally shook the world. But, okay, now it's time for a little reality check. Let's get past all the market hype for a second and ask, how good is this tech actually? Well, when people started testing their image model, Janus Pro, they found a really interesting trade-off. On one hand, it's incredibly faithful to your prompts. Like, if you ask for a baby fox holding a very specific item, you get exactly that, perfectly. But on the other hand, it can lack some of that artistic polish you see from its competitors. And when you get into more abstract stuff, it starts to struggle a bit. It sees an image literally, you know? Whereas a model like GPT-4 can often pick up on the deeper, more symbolic meaning.
So the takeaway here is pretty clear. You can think of Janus Pro as a really powerful Swiss Army knife. It might not be the absolute best, most specialized tool for every single job out there, but its incredible versatility, the fact that it can do so much, so well, is what makes it so impressive. It's that classic trade-off, right? Being a specialist versus being an amazing all-in-one.
You know, the thing about DeepSeek's launch is that it did way more than just release a new product. It totally shattered the industry's long-held assumptions. It forced everyone to suddenly face some pretty big and honestly uncomfortable questions about the entire future of AI.
And the reaction from the top was really telling. You had OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, who admitted he was impressed. But his response wasn't to suddenly switch gears and focus on efficiency. Nope. His response was to double down. He promised even better models, backed by even more investment. So yeah, the giants are definitely sticking to their big spending playbook.
And almost immediately, this story jumped from being about tech to being about geopolitics. You had political figures like former President Trump framing this whole thing as a wake-up call. And that just instantly reignited these really fierce debates about national competitiveness and whether America is maintaining its technological dominance.
So now you've got the entire industry wrestling with these massive strategic questions, like, is just throwing billions and billions of dollars at hardware really the only way to win? Are the US chip sanctions even working if companies can just innovate their way around them? And, what are the implications when a globally popular AI model is operating under a national system of censorship, reportedly refusing to even talk about sensitive political topics?
These are big questions, and there are definitely no easy answers. But they all point to one single, incredibly important takeaway from this whole story.
When you boil it all down, DeepSeek has proven one thing for sure. The rules of the game are changing. This race for AI supremacy, it might not just be about who can build the biggest data centers or buy the most expensive chips anymore. It looks like it's also becoming a race for who has the cleverest, most efficient idea.
And that, right there, is the fundamental question that DeepSeek has forced all of us to ask. As we move forward, is the future of AI going to be built by the company with the biggest budget or the team with the most brilliant idea? The answer to that question is going to define the next decade of technology.